And there's no end to the Israel-Iran tensions, with attacks from both sides escalating, once again giving rise to fears of a wider conflagration in the region. Israel's sweeping assault has targeted Iran's top military leaders, nuclear scientists, uranium enrichment sites and the ballistic missile program. Explosions continue to rock parts of Tehran, forcing residents of Iran's capital to flee Israeli strikes. Massive traffic jams are being witnessed on highways in Tehran, people scrambling to leave the capital city. Iran has also been firing missiles at Israel. A barrage of missiles launched from Iran have left a huge crater in central Israel. Nuclear fears have also risen, as do tensions. The UN's nuclear watchdog has confirmed that an Israeli military strike on Iran's nuclear complex at Natanz directly hit the underground uranium enrichment plant there. Israel continues its full-scale onslaught on Iran, even going to the extent of warning Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, that he will meet the fate of Saddam Hussein. This came after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that eliminating Khamenei would bring the conflict to an end. Amidst heightened tensions, Trump has cut short his Canada visit for the G7 summit, keeping everyone guessing as to what US's next move could be. Trump has stated that he wanted a real end to the nuclear problem with Iran. He said that he was not returning for a ceasefire, but for something bigger than that. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said in an interview that if Iran does not withdraw from the nuclear program, the complete destruction of the Iranian nuclear program is on the agenda. So what remains to be seen is whether bombs or diplomacy will dominate in the Iran-Israel conflict in the coming future.
We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You know, we don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon. We'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard. Then the gloves are off so beautifully. Now I think they know not to touch our troops.
באתי לכאן כדי לחזק את תושבי הרצליה ולהעביר מסר ברור לדיקטטור מטהרן, חמינאי. אם תמשיך לבצע פשעי מלחמה ולירות טילים לעבר האוכלוסייה האזרחית בישראל, גורלך יהיה בדיוק כגורלו של הדיקטטור במדינה השכנה לאיראן, שידוע בדיוק איך הוא סיים. אנחנו לא נאפשר לפגוע באזרחי ישראל, וידנו ארוכה משיגה ותשיג את כל מי שאיים על מדינת ישראל.
Meanwhile, India is racing against time to secure the safety of its citizens caught in the middle of the escalating Iran-Israel conflict. As airspace over Iran remains closed and missiles continue to fly, the government has launched a multi-layered evacuation effort. As of now, 110 students have been evacuated to Armenia, from where they will fly to Delhi tomorrow. All right, and big breaking news coming in. Trump's fresh message to Iran. We know where Supreme Leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but safe there. We won't take him out, at least for now. Trump has warned that patience is wearing thin. That's a big update coming in at this point of time, with Donald Trump coming out to say that patience is wearing thin. It's a fresh message to Iran coming in from President Donald Trump. All right, let's quickly take this across to our guest now. With us at the moment is Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary. Brahma Chelani is a strategic affairs expert. Joining us with us also is Frederick Landau, commander of Israeli Intelligence Special Forces. We also have Dr. Zoreh Kharazmi, who's an assistant professor of American Studies, University of Tehran. We also have Ray Locker, journalist and author, joining us on the show. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Kanwal Sibal, if I can come to you first, you know, what President Trump says and whether we can really believe it and what we can expect is, of course, a very big question indeed, judging by his actions in recent months. But when he says that it's going to be something bigger than a ceasefire, what exactly do you think he's hitting at?
It can't be obviously, a ceasefire, as he himself says, it is something bigger than that. And something bigger than a ceasefire cannot be an end to the conflict. It's not in his hands. He has been fully supporting Israel. That is the core of his policy. U.S. is deeply, deeply involved in the security of Israel. They have been arming Israel for years and years. They are the mainstay of the strength of the Israeli security forces. So he's not going to put pressure on Israel. The pressure will be on Iran and on the nuclear issue. And therefore, when he says something bigger, it can mean two things: that compel Iran through threats. I don't know if it will work, to accept a ceasefire on the terms, or Israeli terms, and what Trump wants, or United States enters into the fray and gives more ability to Israel to hit at Iranian nuclear installations, including Fordo, which is underground, because he has made it very clear. I mean, Trump has made it very clear that there is no question of Iran going nuclear. So I think it is very ominous. Nobody has condemned Israeli threats to kill Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. Israel is a friend of India, there's no doubt, but looking at it objectively, Iran has no mandate from anyone, from the United Nations or from the international community, to target Iran the way they have, or to demand that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. Because under the NPT, Iran has a right to have a nuclear program and have a right to enrichment. They don't have, obviously, they've committed themselves not to acquire nuclear weapons. But right. North Korea walked out of the treaty. Iran can also walk out of the treaty. Now, from our point of view, if Pakistan gets nuclear weapons, what's the problem? in the larger perspective of Iran also becoming a nuclear weapon state. Right. So I think the whole issue is very unfortunate that this war has been triggered needlessly. Already there is a terrible war going on in Europe, in Ukraine, and now another war in the Middle East. The one in Ukraine doesn't have that much consequences for India, but the one here has terrible consequences for us because of our equities in the larger West Asian region. And if tomorrow Iran blocks the Straits of Hormuz, look at what will happen to the price of oil. It will directly affect the entire international community, including us. Right. And it just, we had big programs in collaboration with Israel, IMET, I2E2, and all those things. They're all going for a six. Israel may have genuine reasons to feel insecure. Okay. But the methods that they've used and initiating a war of this kind, let me put that question. Is very, very risky.
No, that's a fair point. But let me put that question across to our guest from Israel. Frederick Landau is with us. Frederick Landau, do you agree with Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary of India, when he says that this is a war that was needless? And at the end of the day, how can one country decide what another country will do? Of course, internationally, there is no condemnation coming in from various statements that we've seen coming in from Israel's side in terms of escalating action as far as Iran is concerned. How do you react to that? Frederick.
Good evening, and thank you for having me back on your show. The only reason that Israel has gone ahead with this attack against the Iranian regime is because for the past 40 years, Ayatollah Khamenei has been declaring two goals. One is to destroy the United States of America, the big brother, what he calls. And the second, and more often, to annihilate and to destruct the state of Israel, what he calls the younger brother. Israel is now defending itself, but not only. We are doing the work for the entire Western Hemisphere. We are doing the work for our allies in the United States, in Europe, and yes, in India, who is a great partner of Israel. We did not seek, nor do we ever seek, to go to war with any of our neighboring countries. We would like peace with the Iranian people. We had peace between 48 and 79. The two peoples have nothing against each other. This is a terrorist regime which has been financing and encouraging terror around the world, including in India. And Israel will not allow a regime of this sort to acquire nuclear weapons, which will be used to destruct the state of Israel, will be used to evoke terror across Europe and possibly India. And that is the only reason that we went out to do this. This was done in full coordination with our allies, at first of all with the United States, and we are doing so throughout, and we would welcome our allies to help us diplomatically, militarily, but there will only be one outcome to Operation Rising Lion, and that is Iran without a nuclear weapon.
Let me
this
put
is
that
not
question.
a war between people. This is not a war between people.
Right.
This is a war to stop the regime having nuclear weapons.
Okay, let me put that question to Dr. Zohreh Kharazmi. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am, on the show. Dr. Zohreh Kharazmi, how do you react to that? That this is specifically aimed at the nuclear weapon program, something that the West is supporting Israel pretty much on, and that's quite evident from the kind of statements that we've seen coming in from the G7. They're saying it's only targeting that. Even President Trump's statement says it specifically that patience is wearing thin. What will Iran do now?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Actually, it's too ridiculous, I think, for all maybe viewers that when we're talking about a genocidal regime that has 67,000, people already as victims, and now just in 5 days, more than 3 children were killed in Tehran and actually other Iranian cities. They're talking about saving the region and actually saving the world. But the fact is that not IAEA, not any even United States intelligence or any other intelligence in the world had any evidence to pursue that Iran is seeking for or even having or is even closer to have the nuclear weapon. And you know that we were on the negotiation table when Israel had the sudden attack, and you know that it was with the assassination of the military officials. It was just bombing, civilians, lots of flats with tens of people killed. The media was targeted, the hospitals are targeted, even it's not the nuclear sites, for example, that you can say is limited. So I think that just talking about a humanitarian side with this genocidal background they have is very clear for everybody in the world today. And Iran has never been looking for the weapons. As I already said, there's no evidence for.
But ma'am, the question many will say is why not give up that program, because you could probably end up saving lives, at least judging by the statements coming in. This is what Trump has said. He said Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame, what a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. So the big question is, if Iran steps back on its nuclear program, you could perhaps prevent further attacks from taking place.
Yes, because philosophically, we cannot really take such a decision when it's our right as an NPT member to have the nuclear energy, to use it peacefully as we already done, in curing, for example, the patients, in producing electricity, and I don't know, different civil actually uses. So I think that it's the right, and even today, it's a high unity, even among those extremes of the political spectrum here inside the country, that it is the right that we should stand for. And by this act of aggression that Israelis and Americans and their coalition did against us, we are much more firm on that.
All right. Brahmachalani, how do you respond to that? Because, this is a position that Iran is taking. It's quite different to the position of the West, but it does complicate things for India, which has ties with both the regimes there.
That's a good question. For India, it's a difficult balancing act. But in terms of facts, let's stick to the facts, that the attack on Iran is just the latest chapter in Israel's long-standing strategy to safeguard its nuclear weapons monopoly in the Middle East through the use of military force preemptively. It has done that repeatedly. In 1981, it bombed Iraq's Osirak reactor. It was a civilian reactor, But the result of that bombing was that it forced Iraq to take its nuclear program underground. Now, that development in turn eventually led to the 2003 US invasion and occupation of Iraq under the false pretext of dismantling weapons of mass destruction that were never found. Then in 2007, Israel bombed a suspected nuclear facility in Syria that was under construction. Did that eliminate Assad's nuclear ambitions? No. Similarly now, the danger is that what Israel has sought to do could be counterproductive to its own long-term interests, could actually turn Iran into a wounded adversary more determined than ever to acquire the nuclear weapon. The fact is that just less than 3 months ago, Tulsi Gabbard told the Senate that the US intelligence community has assessed that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. The International Atomic Energy Agency, in a report declassified this month, also concluded that there is no evidence that Iran has an undeclared or structured nuclear weapons program. And yet, Trump, yielding to pressure from the neocons and hawks in Washington, gave the approval to Israel to launch the attack. The result of this attack could be, the long-term outcome could be that it will drive Iran into a covert nuclear weapons program. Iran could be forced to emulate the example of North Korea. North Korea in 2003 withdrew from the NPT. It kicked out all IA inspectors. And 3 years later, North Korea detonated a nuclear bomb, and it has emerged as a de facto nuclear weapon state. This will be counterproductive to Israel's own long-term interests.
Ray Locker, I want you to come in on this, that, at the end of the day, are we looking at a repeat of what happened in the past in Iraq is a question that is on many people's minds. There's also, of course, the larger question of the open threat going on. Donald Trump saying that we know where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but is safe there. We're not going to take him out, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. The larger question, though, is that in the absence of very clear evidence, is Israel and is the United States position something that is perhaps acting in haste, given what we've seen in the past? Ray Locker.
Yeah, I do think it's acting in haste. I mean, obviously, Iran has been very open about its intentions toward Israel. So if I'm an Israeli leader, I'm very concerned about that. But as Rama mentioned earlier, Tulsi Gabbard just a few months ago said there's no evidence of this. And when asked about that, Trump said, I don't care what she says, which is very troubling. I mean, first of all, I would never have made her director of national intelligence because I think she's a quack. But she does have that job. She speaks for the intelligence community, and Trump doesn't seem to care. And the thought that somehow we can do something that ends this once and for all is ridiculous. You never end it once and for all. Okay. I mean, how long have we been seeing this happen in the Middle East and in West Asia? For 80 years since the creation of Israel. Nothing settles it once and for all. And so to think that we're going to do one thing in the next couple of days that's going to make everything better, we're going to blow something up and end this strife is ridiculous. And if you're counting on, Trump to give you accurate information, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed, because how many lies has he told since he became president this time? In his first term, he told a documented 30,000 lies. And so he lies like he breathes. You take this at your own risk. You take his word at your own risk. And this is a very troubling situation.
All right. Frederick, you want to answer that question? Because, the absence of evidence and the very fact that the U.S. Director of National Intelligence said something to the contrary just a few months ago, Trump doesn't seem to be taking cognizance of that.
First of all, this accusation that you're putting on the same page, Israel and Iran, is totally false. So let's just set a few facts. First of all, The only thing that Iran has done since the Thursday night attack is target Israeli and Jewish civilians. There isn't one military personnel injured or killed on the Israeli side, not one. We have 24 dead and multiple injured, all of them civilians in their homes. Second, it has never in its history called for the annihilation of another state. Our dream, I'm talking as an Israeli, my dream is to be in peace with all my neighbors. I wouldn't want to see any other nation annihilated. We are surrounded by leaders who are calling for our annihilation. Let's go back to 1981. Menachem Begin bombing the Osirak reactor. President Reagan was furious at the time. But you know what happened in 1991 when the first Gulf War started? George Bush, the father, sent a letter to Prime Minister Shamir thanking him because God knows what would have happened in the first Gulf War if Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons. Let's go back to 2007 when Israel annihilated the Syrian nuclear reactor. You know what happened? Assad didn't have nuclear weapons in the civil war. Those are the facts. Now let's go back to 2025. Imagine the hundreds of ballistic missiles bombarding Israeli cities, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, including Israeli Muslims and Israeli Arabs killed in these actions. Now let's give them nuclear weapons and imagine what happens. So let's just face facts.
Dr. Zohar, would you like to counter that? You're saying that on the one hand, Israel is targeting civilians in Iran, but it's exactly the same allegation that Israel is leveling against Iran's regime when it comes to civilian deaths in Israel as well. So what's the difference?
Yeah, yes, the adventure has begun by Israel, and nobody is safe, not Iranians, not Israelis, and maybe if it's go wide in the region, maybe even other people in the region. Israel is the cause. And of course, the United States, with the green light, with the being complicit in the attacks, is actually again the partner. So this is something that they created. So they should be accounting for and be responsible against. So even using their so-called soldier citizens as the human shield is important because you know that they are just recently moving the batteries of the Iron Dome in residential places. You have lots of for example, pictures that the shelters are full of soldiers. So when you're talking about the civilians as soldiers is not true. The pictures are actually indicating that. So if Israel likes to make its so-called citizens safe, should just sit in place, not go rude to have aggressions against others.
We'll have to leave it there.
If I just comment on that, sir?
Okay. Quick response, please. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I can take my laptop camera into my bomb shelter. You'll see my 3 kids sleeping. Don't talk to me about who's in the bomb shelter. It's my 3 kids. Madam, I have nothing against you. I wish that one day we can be friends. I invite you to Israel. Come and be my guest. Tell me if I can be your guest in your home. Don't tell lies. Don't tell lies, madam. You are not the target. My children are sleeping in the bomb shelter tonight. Your children are not.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to wrap it up there because certainly, of course, both sides have their positions that are quite firm. What will eventually happen remains to be seen, particularly with the kind of statements coming in from the United States firmly backing Israel. Are we looking at more, perhaps, rocket attacks there on the ground in Iran is a big question indeed. I'd like to thank all our panelists for joining us. Brahma Chalani, Frederick Landau, Dr. Zohar Kharazmi, Ray Locker. Thanks so much for joining us. Kawal Sibal stays with us for debate number 2.